Ah, howdy, howdy, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to another Friday video. So you know what that means? We've got some magic theory for you today. Now, magic theory can be broken down into anything that you do in regards to magic. Whether you like coins, cards, whatever, sponge balls. If you like just picking up random things and doing pens and whatnot, rubber bands, anything that you want to do, whatever you're doing with it, just share with us down below. What's your favorite form of magic? And we just talk about it. That's the thing. We've got a live stream tomorrow. I've been pushing that in every video. That way you guys know we are going live tomorrow. There's a couple of things we're going to be doing. Ooh, buddy. We're going to be opening up this package from Make Playing Cards. It's going to be super duper exciting. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. But we're also going to do something else. We're going to try to streamline it with our program so that we can show you the background, because I want to start working on the tuck box. So there's going to be a tuck box. Tuck box. Yes, the tuck box for the cards. We have both the white tuck boxes that are in here with these, but then we also want to do the digital tuck box. So we can color on this. If we get our colored pencils out, we'll be able to kind of get an idea of what we want on here to make it look like. And then we can also put it onto the digital thing. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be all about playing card, make playing cards right here. Boom. And we're going to take a look at that. So we've got all these cards here, and you can practice with them. You got 46 cards. These are all my extra ad cards. I put them together in a pack just so I can practice any moves that I want. And all the cards are different for the most part. They're mostly bicycle, obviously, but they're all about the same size. But some of them are different quality because I've used some more than others, things like that. But you can practice with them. There's some monarchs in there. All sorts of fun stuff. So just keep that in mind, this is something nice to have. Just something you can practice with. And what I like is I think they actually sell the deck, but I wouldn't mind making one where you take 52 different cards and put them together. I know Doug Kahn has a version of that, which I think is pretty fun. So there you go. I always recommend having a deck like this on hand. So boom, that's what we got. Now, we're going to do a little bit of magic for you. We got our Eon rings, okay? Eon rings from Illusionist, created by Benjamin Me. Not sure how to pronounce his name. We have 4 rings left after we've been using this one. And what we're going to show you here is a little trick. You have a ring. Okay, now be careful, because this trick has a big hole in it. I thought it was funny. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take this over to here. And that ring actually kind of just melts, disappears. But if you look closely, right there it is, that little hole right there. We're going to put it right on the finger, just like that. And then if we give it a nice little squeeze and we blow, it appears right on the finger. Just like that. So that is one of the tricks that you can learn from the Eon, which it's not on sale anymore, so I think it's back up to like 25, 30 bucks, depending on the shipping and stuff. If you guys are interested, if you know what your ring size is, I have 4 more sizes here. I might be doing something with that, or I might just be finding something else to do with it. I don't know. Because you only need, as I pointed out before, you only need like 1 or 2. I actually reviewed it on Illusionist because they kept emailing me, and I told them, I was like, well, it's not bad. I mean, the price is great. You got 11 tricks, but let's talk a little bit more about that. We did talk about it in the video, but we're talking about ring magic, ring theory, things like that. If you're going to buy a product, you have to weigh the pros and cons of it. Now, considering the price, it's worth it. 100% worth it. This is the little snippet of the review that I gave Illusionist. 100% worth it based on the price. You get 5 rings, but you're only going to use 1 or 2 of them. depending on what you want to do with it. So you might only use 2 of them because those all it's going to fit on your finger. Now, an idea that David had, and I kind of tried to work with a little bit, is you might actually be able to, if you, like for instance, if you can see what the size of somebody else's hand is. I'm not saying that you're going to get it exactly right, but if you can practice enough to know, okay, they're smaller because I've got bigger fingers. So you could do a transfer where you basically say, okay, let's these are actually magic rings because they resize to whoever's wearing them. And you've already clipped the ring size that would be theirs in the hand. You take it off your finger, and then you switch it out for the smaller ring and put it on their hand. So now they just got to see that the ring is on your finger and it's not tight, but it's, it fills up the space. And then you take it off your hand and all you're doing is you're just going like this. If you do the Ramsey subtlety, you can have their ring here. You take this off just like that. And then you say, go ahead and let me see your hand. And you've already switched the ring and you're putting it on their finger. And then now you're like, okay, now go ahead and take a look at that ring. And they're looking at it like it fits, So that was the idea that David had. And I think that could work if you want to do a resizing. If you want to go with like that magical feature that the ring changes size, you can do that. Other than that, you can't use all 5 rings. They're not going to fit on the same person's hand. Okay, that's fine. And then there's 11 tricks. Now, the 11 tricks are fantastic. And I'm not, they're great tricks to get you started with ring magic. I'm not going to give away what the tricks are precisely, but here's what I will here's what I will say. They do have variations of the tricks. So you get one trick and then you get a variation of that trick. So are you going to use both tricks? Probably not. You're going to use one or the other. Then you also have tricks that work very well for social media. Is that, that basically, it will either work for social media or in terms of the angles if you're like in front of a crowd. So you can't be walking around per se. You can't have people, there's angle problems. So a lot of the things that I'm saying here, I'm not trying to give anything away. I'm not trying to say, anything bad. And I'm not trying to copy other people. What I'm just saying is that based on what I've seen and based on what I could use, the other problem that you want to consider, just to go in line with it, is that these are things that I have noticed personally for myself. And if other people have said them, then, well, obviously, then everybody's come to the same conclusion. I have multiple rings on my hand. Okay, I have my wedding band, and then I have this little ring here, which has my daughter's name and her date of birth on it. So I have that on my pinky, and then I have this finger here. Now there's other tricks that you can do that require your ring finger. So if I'm going to do that trick, I would actually have to do it with this hand, and I basically, and then you can hear it. So I would have to do this trick a little bit modified. You come in like this, you can kind of still see it there, and then as I brush across, there it is on the finger. So I would actually have to do it with my other hand, which might not be as clean as what I'd like. Plus angle, like you get used to a certain angle where you're like, I got to turn this way to hide something, or I got to turn this way to hide something. And then when you have to do it with your other hand, it starts to get a little bit funky. So the other thing that I've been practicing with this is my card forces and stuff. So as you can see, not so great. And that's another thing that I've noticed. You try to do something with one hand, and then you have to do it with the other hand because it's like it's weird because this hand can do this stuff. But if I tried to do a spring with this hand, I wouldn't be able to do it. So it comes down to this whole notion, because you have to practice obviously, but it comes down to this notion of like when I used to play baseball, I didn't play for the school or anything, but you ever go play a pickup game or something like that. I catch with my left hand and I was absolutely fantastic. I could be over here, down here, over here, over here, wherever I'm going to be, I can catch it and it was fine. And I could throw with this hand. I could throw side, I could throw over, I could throw, I could throw it all different sorts of ways. I can put some spin on it, all that stuff. I could catch decently with my right hand. I could still catch because I believe, and here's my thoughts on this, this had the muscle memory for catching, but this had the dexterity to keep up with it. So I do some sword fighting from time to time, not so much now because of those types of events are on lockdown, but and I read fantasy, and we've talked about that before. In terms of fantasy sword fighting or just sword fighting in general, if you have quick hands, that's going to help you because you've got dexterity. So with my right hand, I might be able to, it might seem like I can do stuff that my left hand has learned how to do, but it's only because I use that hand more frequently and the muscles are more finely tuned as far as doing stuff. So you usually grab with your left hand and you use your right hand for the action. If you're grabbing, but in terms of anything that you're doing, your stronger hand would be your right hand if you're right-handed and your left hand if you're not. So technically you should lead with your right hand because, as I just pointed out, your right hand can compensate for what your left hand loses, and then you can utilize your left hand to do certain things. Especially, and this is it's a weird kind of doctrine that we live in because it's a right-handed world, as you've heard. So if you can master stuff with your left hand, you could easily, especially in magic, you could probably easily fool somebody because they're not expecting that your left hand is going to be the hand that's going to be doing, like most of the time when I'm doing stuff, it's always with my left hand. And even when I'm doing all this fine-tuned stuff, I can still pull off some of it with my right hand sometimes. But you get the point that I'm trying to make there, is that if you don't practice with the right hand and the left hand, then you're going to have a bad time, as the saying goes. So I can kind of sloppily do stuff like that with that. So my recommendation is to practice, as I just point out here, practice with both hands. Practice ring stuff, practice coin stuff, because it's going to help your card game, because you're going to get that idea of how to manipulate things a little bit better when you've tightened up those muscles. Because you figure, imagine how small this is, which I haven't done coin stuff. I've been doing ring stuff all, for the last 2 weeks because I've always got it on me. But if you're holding stuff in your hand like this, your hand's going to get used to doing that. And then when you're holding something in your hand like this, you want to keep in mind that you should theoretically be able, well, not even theoretically, you should be able to cup something in your hand while grabbing something. This should be a skill that you have. And obviously, as you can see, I can't do that. So I should be able to theoretically pick up this deck of cards while cupping this in my hand. Now, it might just be a matter of figuring out the best position for that. But it is something that you probably should be able to do to some extent. I mean, if it doesn't work out for you, then it doesn't work out for you. Let's see if I can do it with this hand. So, obviously, if you're picking up coins, then the coins are going to be the same size. So maybe that's part of my issue. I'm trying to pick up a deck of cards while holding something in my hand. And the thing that you're picking up is probably going to have to be a similar size to what you have in your hand. Otherwise, your palming is going to open up too far, and then it's going to fall out. That's a possibility. Okay, so we talked about what we're going to be doing tomorrow, and I'm really excited about doing that. And then we talked about my little project that I put together for this. And this is a deck that I can practice with, just like I had my B deck, my beat deck. I basically just, those cards are just wrecked. But I can now do similar stuff with this, where I can practice different moves that I typically wouldn't be able to do. Like, let's take a look at the Theory 11 card here, just like that. And then if we look very carefully, we can actually cut right to that card. It's not that card. It's actually this one. So I've been learning a couple of other controls. Thank you to Jason Marr, that going back and watching his videos. Keep in mind, and this is something that's very important, Now, my video catalog is different than other people's videos catalogs in some ways. There's a distinctive difference. My old content and my new content, the only thing, like, I'm doing different stuff. So I'm still getting a lot of views on my old content for the people that are still watching that, and that's fantastic because it's working for me in the background. But I'm trying to build my new content to do the same thing so that I can get people on board with watching my old content, the content that like I made last year and last month and stuff like that. Now the difference is you've got somebody like Jason Marr. I highly implore you, Jason Marr, Josh Norvito, Doug Kahn, Rise Magic, anybody that you can think of, Alex Pandrea, Chris Ramsey, look at their old content. Just go back and watch it from time to time. Save it in your little save thing. That way you can go back and watch it. Save your favorite tricks and go watch those videos. One, you're going to be helping those creators. Leave a comment. Let them know, like, hey, it's been like 5 years, but be like, hey, this is still relevant because they uploaded something for you guys. When we upload stuff, we try to, some of it's for us, but a lot of it's for you guys. So make sure that you're going and you're re-commenting on those videos. And if you haven't liked them before, like them now and let them know that you guys are still learning stuff from them. Because I constantly try to look through somebody's back catalog and learn new things, especially if I've never watched their channel before and I'm now coming to it for the first time. Like Gavin Booth does a lot of like how to create your own magic. So check that out because you're gonna want to be able to create stuff that for your own originality. So if you can create your own stuff like Spidey Hypnosis, I didn't mention that one. Spidey is an excellent source of mentalist magic, but also just stuff that you can put together. Sankey, Jay Sankey, excellent little stuff that you can do. Some of it's a little gimmicky, but let's be for real. Even if it's gimmicky, it still can hit hard. And that's kind of what you want. You want tricks that people are going to look at, even if it's the simplest thing. Like, I do tricks for my daughter, and she's always like, well, you just did this, and you just did that. And sometimes she's pretty close. A lot of the times, she's not. But I try to explain to her, I'm like, try to just enjoy the trick instead of trying to figure out how it's done. If you want to know how it's done, that's fine. I can teach you some, obviously she's my daughter, so I probably would teach her anything that she asked me to teach her. But for those tricks that I do that hit really, really hard, that like you do it for them, and you're like, well, this is just kind of like a throwaway thing that I do, and they're just like, oh, and they just melt. That they just have this whole like, that was amazing, that was awesome, how'd you do that? They have this magical moment, and that's absolutely fantastic. So those types of tricks, you're just you can have them. Like for instance, I use examples. So I learned from Jay Sankey how to do he did a pencil through coin trick, and then he teaches you how to do the wiggly pencil and how to do the melting coin. And that trick might not fool anybody, but as I pointed out, and as Jay Sankey pointed out, he's like, you get it. That's the thing. That's what you get about this trick. You can either do a look at the end where you're like, how did I do that? Or you can do the look at the end of like, how did I do that? Like you can, if the crowd knows what you're doing and you executed it perfectly, like you didn't flash or anything, but they're like, we get it. Then just laugh it off, have a good time, because that's what it is. It's a joke. It is a joke. And then if the crowd's like, wait a minute, how'd you do that? And you're like, magic. So it is a trick that you can roll with the punches with, and that's the great part about having some of those little tricks. Because one, I just finally I'm not even done with it yet, is one of the podcast episodes for the Magic Guys, I think it was the Patreon version, they were talking about briefly talking about like segue magic, because when you're doing a magic trick, you gotta have something to fill the time, whether you're just joking around, you're doing comedic relief, or if you're going into another magic trick, and you always have to have that magic. And sometimes that magic can hit as hard even though it's just this little gimmicky 30-second thing, it could hit as hard as the regular magic. So keep in mind that you want it to fit your style and you want it to work for you. So those are the types of things, even if it's a little ring magic, even if it's some, even if you're doing another quick little card trick, it's whatever it happens to be. Keep in mind that we're learning these tricks from somebody. So you want to show appreciation for the people that you're learning it from. And you also want to keep in mind that you want to practice. You want to practice with both hands. You don't necessarily have to do something with the opposite hand if you don't feel comfortable doing it, but you should be able to do certain things with both hands. Like you definitely should be able to do a fan with both hands, for sure. That is just an absolute must. And then you want it to look pretty much the same when you do it with both hands. And there's a reason for that, and when I'm better at it, because I can probably pull off the reverse fan, I'd say 50% of the time. You could do it two ways. You can do it facing you and then show them, or you can, if you feel bold, you can just do the reverse fan facing them. And if you want to learn why that's relevant, go ahead and type that into YouTube and you will find a lot of different variations on why that's relevant, but I absolutely love that trick. For with a lot of decks, it just kind of like, for some reason, it just kind of just resonates. It just does something to your brain that doesn't make sense. It's kind of like the Svengali deck. It's just a nice move to have in your repertoire. So learn those little moves, learn the fundamentals, and then that way you can build stronger routines. And you can have stronger tricks, stronger material, and just slowly start to encapsulate, because there's one thing that you want to avoid, and that is learning routines. If you buy somebody's routine and you learn from start to finish, you copy what they say, you copy what they do, and then you go out and perform that all the time, then you get stuck in this trench because you didn't actually learn how to segue. You just took something that was already made. But if you learn from the ground up, yes, it's going to be a little bit more grueling. Take some magic classes. They'll help you. They've already done the legwork. And then you can learn how to build things yourself, build routines, build tricks, figure out how to segue. And then that way, as you're going along, you can totally rock the crowd, because everything is completely original and organic by you, and you've practiced that material. And I recommend this, and I recommend it again. I don't necessarily do this because time permitting, things like that, but and I haven't really looked into it enough yet. But if you're struggling with performance, then find a local comedy club, go onto Facebook, find a group. Nowadays you can probably do like Zoom, hang out over Zooms, but if you can find a local group of people that are like-minded, or your local theater group, just go to your local theater group. These are like going to be the best people to talk to about how to perform in front of an audience, because that's what they do. Like, I'll tell you a story and then we'll wrap up this video and then we'll go into the second video we're going to do today. So this is a story about a college student. And I heard this. I didn't meet this person, but I heard this from one of my counselors when I went to college. So she basically said there was this student who went out and, she came to college and she took public speaking and did all of her speeches and stuff. And we're talking somebody right out of high school, and she was just like, she was professional level speaker, and her friend was like, I can't even like get my head around the fact that I have to stand up in front of people and you're selling out crowds, type of performance, and she's like, how did you get so good? And she's like, I was on the debate team and I was in the nationals and I traveled. This is literally a person who debated in front of audiences. And we're not just talking about performance, which there's a performance to that, but we're talking about somebody who argued a point with somebody else in terms of like, I'm not sure exactly what that debate entailed, but yeah, I mean, she's like, I've been doing that for like 5-10 years. So she's already going into college, taking a class that she needs to qualify for other things that she wants to do, and she's already a professional speaker. That is amazing. So take your cues, join a debate team, join a performance, whatever it is that you want to do. Joining a debate team, it might be a little bit much depending on what you want to do, but they might have a lot of ways to overcome hecklers. That might be a good, just talk to them. Talk to somebody who's on a debate team and say, hey, how do you overcome in this instance when if they start talking like this? Maybe it doesn't qualify, but maybe it does. But reach out to comedians, reach out to people, talk to them, and figure out what's going to help your performances in terms of like what can you do. And the reason why I say approach the comedy group or the theater group is they'll probably let you can join their community and you can practice your material for them. Probably, I mean, like, even if, like, say there's a role coming up where they need somebody who's like a stand-up funny guy, and they're like, hey, I want this guy, and I want this guy to have this practice and do stuff like, and you're a part of the group already, so now you get to perform on your own, doing your own thing. But then they'll call you in when they want you to, and then you basically you build a relationship with these people. So I think that's definitely something to consider. And even if you don't want to join those groups, I would definitely have somebody on speed dial to call and talk to, or go in to talk to, if you're comfortable with that. Just say, hey, like, this is what I'm doing in the community. I've started performing, whether you're performing in a club setting or if you're roving or doing busking stuff. And I need to figure out how to, like, captivate an audience. That is, like, if you're, both of those require you to be able to captivate an audience. Because as I've said before, I've spoken in front of an audience. I've done speeches and stuff like that in college. But when you're giving a presentation to somebody about something that you love and something that you're doing, you definitely want to have this ability to say, hey, pay attention to me. Like Jason says, or this is an old saying, is if you could beat a stick, then you'll never go hungry. But like when you're busking, you need to be loud, you need to be boisterous, you need to be like, hey, I'm over here doing stuff, come see what I'm doing. You do it differently. Crowd building is different when you're in like I'm not saying performance magic, things like that, but when you're giving a performance on a stage, it's a little bit different because the speech is a performance. The people are already watching you, but what you need to do is you need to captivate that audience, and you need them to hang on your words, and you need them to be engaged with what you're doing. Because you could quickly lose a crowd, even if you're performing at a corporate level or in a business setting like that, if people aren't interested in what you're saying. So be interesting, be captivating, and reach out to those people that are masters of their craft. And even if it's not magic, because the trick is only a small part of what you're doing. Another, one of the important things is to make sure that you are practicing your performances, you're practicing your tricks, and you also want to keep in mind that you are running a sort of a business, because you might be the best person in the world to go up on stage and be like, I'm going to perform for you and all this stuff, and people love it. But then you might not have any knowledge about how to build that business and say, hey, here's my card. I've printed off these cards. Everybody should have business cards. Everybody should have a business card. Even if you don't have a business. That might be a little bit much, but you should still have one. Because you could be like, here's my number. Call me. You can hand out business cards in professional settings. That's one of the things that if you're going in for a job interview and they're like, okay, here's my card. And it's like, if you need to do a follow-up or whatever, and you're like, I can do one better. Here's my card. And if you're in the magic setting and there's like an audience that like they're obviously, if you're in the business setting and you're providing that business card, produce the business card. Produce it. If you're into the whole fire thing, produce it by fire. If you're into making it appear out of nothing, make it appear out of nothing and say, hey, I got a card for you too. Oh, here it is right here. Boom. And that's, it's not necessarily for the person who wants to hire you, because they probably just seen you performing or they've heard about you, so they already are interested. It's for the clientele that you might be performing for that are around them. Because now they're like, hey, this guy's doing magic. Oh, he's already done. Oh, okay. Well, and then they're like, oh, but don't worry, he's going to be here at the, on this day. So there's just a way to perform without really like screaming that you're performing, type of thing. Anyway, I've rambled on pretty long here. I don't want to do that whole hour thing that I've done before. This is a half-hour video. The next one's going to be a little bit shorter because it's just going to be a trick that I've been working on. That might take me a while to actually get right. But hope you guys enjoyed. And remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And we'll see you in the next one.